What if Anakin Skywalker had nightmares about Order 66 instead of Padme Amidala dying? That's what we're going to explore today. Hope you enjoy this video. Let's get right into it. Anakin Skywalker was sleeping next to Padme for the first time in months. He'd finally returned from the Outer Rim sieges and was so happy to be back. Soon the war would end and he could spend every day with her and their future child. It was truly wonderful. But as Anakin slept, something happened. Dreams came to him. Nightmares. He was inside the Jedi Temple. There were screams, blaster fire, lightsabers ignited and deflecting blasts, clones running around. Anakin looked around to see who the clones and Jedi were fighting, when he realized the worst outcome was in front of his eyes. The clones were firing at the Jedi. Anakin continued on, running through the temple, watching Jedi fall to the clones, and suddenly a presence called to him in the nightmare, and Anakin ran around, trying to find this familiar presence. Finally, he got to the council chambers, and found the younglings hidden away. Then, Anakin turned as a lightsaber ignited behind him. Anakin didn't recognize who was holding the saber right away. It was a shadowy figure, and one that carried a great darkness. As Anakin was about to walk up to the figure, he woke up in a cold sweat. He never saw who it was. And as Anakin started to wake up, he could feel Padme shaking him. She looked worried, and said Anakin was screaming and shaking in his sleep. She'd been trying to wake him up for a while, and now Anakin remembered the dream. Clones firing upon the Jedi, the temple in flames, and someone in the temple with a lightsaber, engulfed by the dark side. Could it be the Sith Lord? Anakin wondered. And he explained these dreams to Padme. She was there when Anakin had dreams about his mother. They came true last time, and they both knew that Anakin had to act quickly to prevent these dreams from coming true. He told Padme that he must visit the Jedi Council very soon. And in his lair in the industrial sector of Coruscant, Palpatine finished his Sith alchemy ritual. He was putting dreams of the future in Anakin's head, trying to turn the boy to the dark side, but something was off, he could feel. Perhaps he'd gone too far, but Palpatine could feel the dreams had worked. He felt Anakin in the Force. He was surrounded by fear. The next morning, the Jedi Council was in session to discuss the war without Count Dooku. There was quite a bit to discuss, including Grievous and Palpatine. But before anything could get done, Anakin Skywalker entered the council unannounced. He apologized for the interruption, but he said that he may have the key to ending this war. The council began murmuring to each other in confusion. Obi-Wan stared at Anakin, wondering what was going on, and eventually Windu told Anakin to expand on what he means. Anakin said that he had dreams, nightmares of the end of the war. The Jedi Council was extremely intrigued. They were all hoping for a swift end to this war, and it wasn't looking like it could come anytime soon, with the Chancellor and the Senate still pushing it on. And soon, Windu asked what Anakin saw, and Anakin began to describe it. Anakin described the temple in flames, the thousands of clone troopers climbing the temple stairs, the massacre inside the temple, and Anakin said that he thinks he saw the Sith Lord in his dreams. He couldn't be sure of who it was he saw, but there was a man with a lightsaber, surrounded by shadow, that Anakin could not clearly see, but Anakin knew he was evil, and he was helping the clones to kill the Jedi. Yoda said that this was extremely disturbing. The clones' origin had always been mysterious for everyone, but they were necessary in this war, and as the war went on, less questions were asked about the clones. Soon, Ki-Adi-Mundi spoke up, saying that perhaps the clones were created for a purpose that the Jedi were never supposed to know about. Plo Koon and Obi-Wan both said they couldn't believe their men would ever do this. They were extremely loyal. And Yoda said that perhaps the Council could figure this out together. If they put their collective mind together on Anakin's dreams, perhaps they could remove the mask surrounding the dark figure in those dreams. And so every council member on Coruscant surrounded Anakin here in the chambers. They put their hands on Anakin as he dove deep into meditation, searching for the nightmares. And deep in his mind, they returned. Anakin was back in the temple, and around him were the council members. Collectively, they watched the temple fall to the clones. It was horrific, and they made their way up to the council chambers, where Anakin said he'd seen the mysterious man. Together this time, the Council waited until the dark figure arrived, and using the collective force, the Jedi Council pulled the dark cloud away from this man, and they saw who it was. The meditation was broken as Anakin got off of it in a panic. He collected himself to find all of the Council members staring cautiously at him, including Obi-Wan. He felt cold standing here in the Council, alone and unwelcome, as the Council had just seen what Anakin could become. But Yoda was the first to speak up, saying that perhaps the Council was being deceived. The Sith could be interfering. Everyone turned to Yoda as he described his interpretation of the prophecy of the Chosen One, born to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force. Yoda said that the Sith will naturally fear this prophecy, and fear Anakin because of it. And Yoda said that perhaps the only way the Sith will try to avoid this prophecy is to take it for themselves. Take Anakin for themselves. And Yoda said the best way to avoid this, and the best way for the Sith to do this with Anakin, is to create mistrust and dissension inside the Jedi Council. Yoda then vowed to Anakin that the Council is here to support him. He will be who he chooses to be, not what the Sith or Jedi choose him to be. Anakin thanked Yoda and asked what the next moves should be. And the Council agreed that the hunt for Grievous must be priority number 1, and once he is gone, the Council and Anakin agreed they must collectively go to Chancellor Palpatine and ask him to end this war. Only then can they investigate further into what the clone's true purpose is. As the Council meeting ended, Anakin went off on his own personal meeting with Palpatine, and from here, Palpatine would grant Anakin his very own seat on the Jedi Council, as his personal representative. Anakin was thankful for this, especially in times where he was working with the Council, and the Council would grant him the seat, but not yet promote him to Master. This was a bit annoying for Anakin, but he had no real need to be a Jedi Master quite yet. Palpatine was continuously confused as to why Anakin was not more angry with the Council. He'd put nightmares in his head of Padme dying, or so he thought, and Palpatine sat in his office contemplating what to do next. He had to make his move on Skywalker soon, and he needed the Council scattered throughout the galaxy, so he told Anakin that Grievous has been found on Utapau. Back in the Council, now with Anakin as a new member, they discussed this news. The Council decided that Obi-Wan would go to Utapau to defeat Grievous, and once that is done, they must move on the Chancellor, ask him to end this war. And this was where the Council's secret mission was coming into play. With the threat of the clones attacking the temple, all of the Council members were discreetly called back to the temple. If there was any danger to the temple, the Jedi would be ready, but they had to be secretive. No one could know about this, or else it could reach up to the Sith Lord. The Jedi needed the Sith to reveal himself, to think he had the upper hand. And so Obi-Wan jumped into hyperspace, while the rest of the Council secretly arrived back on Coruscant, waiting for an update from Obi-Wan. And on Utapau, Obi-Wan confronted Grievous. After a long while, he ended up destroying the droid general. Now, it was time for the Jedi to make their move in this game of chess. They knew the Sith Lord was waiting for something in particular, and so they devised a plan. Anakin would go to the Chancellor alone, wearing a listening device, and he would tell him that Grievous is destroyed. His response from there would tell the Council what direction to take. For Anakin, he was willing to do this. He had no dreams about Padme's death. Instead, he dreamt of the destruction of the Jedi at his hands. Anakin didn't have any idea why he would do that. It had to be because of the Sith Lord in hiding. Perhaps he was controlling Anakin, controlling the clones. So Anakin was ready to end this war, whatever it takes. End the Sith. He just wanted it to be over, the Sith to be out of his head, and to live happily with Padme. And so with Grievous destroyed, Anakin entered Palpatine's office with a listening device, transmitting to the Jedi Council. Palpatine could sense underlying darkness in Anakin. He was afraid of something, deeply afraid. Palpatine knew that this must be for Padme, but little did he know, Anakin's fear was about himself, and what he would become if he went into the dark side. And so Palpatine began his plan, describing to Anakin that there was only one way to achieve the power he seeks. And then Palpatine messed up, saying that only through him could Anakin save Padme's life. This to Anakin was a gut punch that he did not expect. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, telling Palpatine he should kill him, here and now. Palpatine said he could feel Anakin's fear, feel his anger, and it made him stronger. Palpatine told Anakin to embrace the dark side, and Anakin said now that the power is exactly what he was afraid of, and he told Palpatine that he must inform the Jedi Council of this. They will know what to do. Palpatine smiled to himself, feeling Anakin's conflict. The boy was confused, and in no time, he would see it as the Jedi who are standing in his way. But as Anakin left Palpatine's office and emerged by the streets of Coruscant, a Republic transport picked him up. Inside of it were all of the council members except for Obi-Wan, Windu, Saesee Tiin, Agen Kolar, and Kit Fisto. Obi-Wan was on Utapau, but Windu, Tiin, Kolar, and Fisto were going to infiltrate Palpatine's office. As soon as he attacks the Jedi, the rest of the council would jump into battle, with cause for jumping into battle. And Palpatine sat in his chair as the Jedi Masters walked in. After a brief exchange, the Jedi ignited their lightsabers for battle, and as they expected, Palpatine ignited his own, spinning through the air at the Jedi. Initially, the speed was far more than what the Jedi expected, and Masters Tiin and Kolar fell dead. Now the rest of the Jedi had to move. They didn't expect this speed, this ferocity from Palpatine. The Republic transport flew to the window, and as Palpatine was about to cut down Fisto, the windows were blown open by blasts from the Republic transport. Smoke filled the room, and Palpatine spun away from Fisto and Windu, having to recover, figure out what was going on. He looked for their lightsabers through the smoke, wondering exactly what this was, when finally he spotted the purple and green saber. This was good. But as he was about to move on these two Jedi, 7 more lightsabers ignited in unison in the smoke. And as the smoke cleared, Palpatine was standing face to face with the Jedi Council. He locked eyes with Anakin, standing near the middle of them all, and Palpatine realized it was he who was played. He could not be arrested. Clearly the Jedi had evidence of him playing both sides, or else they would not all be here, trying to arrest or kill him. And so he decided to fake an arrest. All he needed was to communicate to the clone troopers one simple order. No way the Jedi could know about this. He just needed to access his comms. And so Palpatine put his hands out for cuffs, with a smile on his face. Order 66 would succeed, and he would soon escape before any real damage to his plan was done. Anakin would be a loss to it all, but a necessary one. He would win in the end. And as a council, the Jedi knew they had to arrest Palpatine. He was an unarmed prisoner, and they had the evidence to keep him locked away for good. But they felt uneasy about it. They knew he was dangerous. Anakin, especially, was not happy with this idea. He trusted Palpatine for years. He knew how smart this man was. The arrest would not hold him. He had to die. And so as the council began walking Palpatine out of the office, Anakin called upon the Force, using it to push everyone back just enough to get himself alone with Palpatine. And before the Sith Lord could realize what was happening, he felt a lightsaber go through his chest. In this final moment, he seemed to briefly connect with Anakin in the Force, and he saw Anakin's dreams. They were not of Padme after all. They were of himself turning evil. Palpatine knew now, as he fell dead, that the Force had failed him. The council members all looked at Anakin as he killed Palpatine. This was what they wanted, but would it be the right choice for Anakin? Would the Republic, would the Council stand for this? And following Palpatine's death, the Jedi called a meeting in the Senate and presented the audio of Palpatine telling Anakin that he is the Sith Lord the Republic was searching for. Therefore, he was working with Dooku and the Separatists. The Separatist Council would go into a panic and ultimately be discovered by the Jedi, forced to surrender. The war was won by the Republic, and when it was all over, Anakin Skywalker left the Jedi Order instead of waiting for a hearing for his killing of the unarmed Palpatine, and this was to do what he'd always wanted, be with his wife, who gave a safe birth to twins, and the 3 of them would go on to live peacefully, with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and others often visiting on Naboo. And folks, that's our story for the day. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought. This was one I wanted to do, so appreciate it. Thanks a ton, and I'll see you in the next video.